And I will use, and I have to be honest that it's not only like coming from the inspirational speeches and presentations during these 2 days. This is somehow, like wrap up within the development, which is very quickly ongoing, not only in the European Union, but all around us. And a little bit of incoming November, where especially my country is remembering the occasion and the anniversary of the Velvet Revolution and the importance of the freedom and the democracy itself. So let me start with a couple of points. They say, get back to the roots. They say, learn from the history to prevent mistakes in the future. They say, love and truth prevail over lies and hatred. So when we're getting back to the roots, it means remembering why the EU was founded. The obvious arguments was cooperation, reconstruction after the Second World War, stronger economic position, and building the single market. All true. What is lacking many times in the narrative and the discussion is that the EU is the peace project. It is the value-based, as you cannot cooperate in long term if not having the same values, the same basis for moving forward. The words common to the member states should be put forward, not usually as we have it at the end of the declarations or the treaty provisions. EU is our project, and we should shape the narrative in these regards. As we heard in the last 2 days, it is not only the expression and actions which are important, but it is also the expression how the EU frame its actions and the policies. The policies and actions are usually reactive, especially in the last years, rather than the active and narrative shaping. We can see the number of the areas itself. The EU face, for example, a long time fatigue in enlargement, as we heard today morning. The Russia invasion to Ukraine woke up the EU as a sleeping beauty, and a little bit reinitiate the talks, give that to the talks a bit of dynamics. But again, underline security environment and external borders and not shaping the values and the roots there. But is it enough to offer the membership to the long-waiting partners in Western and in South? Would the EU be able to persuade citizens and their trust in these countries when they are waiting for long? Can we really be successful to making this idea happen? I keep wondering whether we can do it right, especially keeping in mind what we do say in the law itself. The notion of late justice is not justice. The enlargement for long time waiting can be successful, or how we can proceed further to make it successful. This is very much important as well. Similarly, in the other areas, as we mentioned today and yesterday, like the environment and the energy transition, tackling the climate change, the EU committed itself to the very valuable targets, climate neutrality, just transition, cutting emissions and fossil fuels. But we see a number of times in the debate a narrative to compromise on them, to talking much more about the economic benefit and putting the climate change and the climate objectives on the second place. We have to be aware that when EU look forward and pioneer its targets and policies, like in the environment, it has got the applause at the beginning, but doubting its achievement during the process is doubting and undermine trust in the European Union, having the impact on the other policies as well. In this regard, we definitely should learn from the history, not starting the project with a big applause and then fail in achieving the goals. We know from the history that lesson learned is more rational than learning by doing. And then again, we are here facing similar situations and challenges as before. We are negotiating on our goals for short-term achievements. We are compromising on our values, not being able to act and put EU on the first place, as we saw lightly in the trade negotiations, with the negotiations on the emissions and sustainability. We are not managing expectations in the neighborhood and enlargement process. Many times we are over-promising and putting a price on the membership. It seems definitely like that. No lesson learned. The EU is built on the same values, sharing the history experience since the Second World or post-World War period itself. And we should not forget on that. Yet we fear of not being strong enough to have a say and stick with what we say globally and internally. Somehow we lack of the actions when we look on the development in the member states. And when our member states and partners don't align, we undermine the credibility of EU itself. We do know that being rational, factual, evidence-based in the politics is not enough. Irrationalism and emotions in politics are strongly present nowadays. Being aware of it, there is the right questions which gets to my mind after reading a very nice article shared lately by my colleague Eric. The right question to ask is how to create awareness that the shared rationality is important and is constantly important, not only during the elections, but in between. And for the sustainability of the institutions, and the EU is the institution itself, it would need to be reconsidered. And I will conclude with the last point I quoted from our last president of the Czechoslovakia and the first president actually of the Czech Republic, Havel, who said, "Love and truth prevail over lies and hatred. The truth is that we can do better sticking together in the European Union. We can do better respecting human rights, dignity, and the rule of law. And we can do better with this only in democracies. We can be only as strong as the European Union as our weakest partner, as our weakest member itself." So in this regard, we have to be clear that we are fighting on so many fronts nowadays. We cannot only look forward without having the safeguards and understand the historical lesson itself. We can look forward only if we ensure quality care for our member states and the EU itself. We can give the perspective to the EU and the member states, as well as the future member states, only if we presume any backsliding, frustration, populism, and authoritarianism rising, and we can do it only by achievements and sticking with the goals and the values we set initially. Thank you very much. And now I will give the floor to our honorable guest in this regard, and I will start also with a very big thank for hosting this conference, for giving the space for these ideas and the experiences to share. So it's Mary Varda from the Cyprus Center for European and International Affairs of the University of Nicosia, and Andreas as the father of the center and the head in many regards. So very much thank you for having us, for hosting us, and for giving the space for talk about this development, and provide a space also including the contradicting ideas, because we have to hear them and we have to be aware what's happening and what's in these emotions and expression itself. So thank you very much.
I mean, I can't complain. So the chocolate's here. I mean, you wrapped up perfectly, making my job all that easier. But also thank you for the opportunity to host such an event here. And Cyprus is a small state, and we rarely get the opportunity to bring people from all over Europe and discuss these matters. So thank you as well. So I will also begin. I will also do thanks now. I will also. Well, I have to thank all of the speakers, the chairs, the participants for the breadth of knowledge and the insight they brought to the discussions. Over these 2 days, we haven't simply exchanged views, we've also expressed concerns and recognized the constraints under which the European Union currently operates. Now, I am conscious that I am the last one to speak, and I do stand between you and the end of this conference, so I promise to be brief and offer but a few reflections. Something I cannot help but notice is that a recurring theme in all of the sessions was this tension between what the European Union aspires to do and what its institutional design and resources allow it to do. Europe is navigating a landscape for which it was not originally designed, as Professor Pedi rightly noted yesterday, while at the same time being asked to deliver more than ever before. In that light, another point that stood out was that this external ambition of the EU, while noble, cannot substitute for internal delivery. The EU's credibility abroad is closely linked to its performance at home. If the Union cannot address the concerns that affect most of its citizens, we've got a cost of living crisis, we have to take care of employment conditions, housing, and access to welfare, then all of its claims to global influence will ring hollow if these are not addressed. And this brings us to the social dimension. The discussions made it quite clear that debates on defense, technology, strategic autonomy must be accompanied by a renewed commitment to the social fabric of the Union. Political trust is a precondition for the success of the Union. And while the success of the Union is also threatened currently by this persistent gap between declared objectives and available instruments. So when policy goals consistently exceed capacity, the result is not ambition, but erosion of trust. Europe does not suffer from a lack of ideas, but it rather suffers because means do not match expectations. Progress in this environment requires clear priorities, realistic sequencing, and consistent follow-through. At the same time, we should avoid falling into what Dr. Eric Jones described yesterday as this narrative of failure. The European Union's history is not one of inevitable success, but nor is it one of inevitable decline. It has a history of reinvention and adjustment, often incremental, sometimes contentious, but rarely static. The challenge is to build a credible narrative of capability, anchored not in self-affirmation, but in demonstrated outcomes. And for this trio presidency, this means focusing not only on long-term strategic files, but also on deliverables that strengthen trust. The Danish experience in our trio demonstrates the value of continuity, administrative competence, and pragmatic coalition building. For Cyprus now, the task will be to facilitate rather than to declare and to prioritize steady execution over symbolic ambition. Our presidency will take place in a demanding environment, but small member states have shown that they can lead effectively by listening carefully, acting consistently, and ensuring that institutional processes align with political realities. Now, the European project has always lived in a period between aspiration and constraint, and it can survive this period of turbulence as well by ensuring that ambition remains anchored in social responsibility, cohesion, and public trust. And now I could not conclude without expressing my sincere appreciation to Allegra, to Eva, to Barbara, for their excellent cooperation throughout this process, to the entire TEPSA team, to the Norwegian Institute of International Affairs for pitching in to help us. Special thanks also go to the Ministry of the Republic of Cyprus and to the Cyprus Forum for their support. And you have to allow me, above all, to thank Professor Andreas Theophanous and Stiliana Bedru, whose ambition and persistence made this conference possible. Thank you very much.